So, today we're going to talk about moving to Spain and why come to Valencia. Valencia is often described as the best place to live, not only in Spain but the whole world. It's been included by Internations, by Forbes and many more, and it's got a combination of climate, affordability, accessibility and pure lifestyle value. It makes it number one. There are various trends within the Valencia property market. There are more and more international buyers each year, although we're still only up to about 20% within the city, which is actually quite low compared with a lot of other international destinations. Valencia's got much greater visibility now. Just this week, for example, we had the Valencia Digital Summit, which brought together lots of international companies showing off their new wares and brings more and more people in every year. And Valencia itself, there's more brand awareness of brand Valencia. Back in the day, the only time you'd ever hear anything about Valencia was when they were playing football against someone good. Unfortunately now, Valencia's team isn't good enough and you don't hear that. But you do hear a lot about Valencia and people moving to Valencia, people going to Valencia, and people saying Valencia's just the perfect place to live. So, what do you get in Valencia? Let's look at value for money. Now, all of these numbers are supplied by Numbeo, and Numbeo is a website where you can check what the cost of living day to day is for everything. So if you go on there and you look at the average costs for buying a place, renting a place, etc., you can see that Madrid is 80 to 90% more expensive per square meter. Barcelona, more expensive than Madrid, surprisingly, 90 to 110% more expensive per square meter. Bilbao, 29 to 55% more expensive, and even Malaga is 27 to 90% more expensive per square meter. So the percentages we're talking about here, the lower percentage refers to inside and the higher percentage refers to outside, or the other way around. But basically, all of the places that you would look at when you're coming to live in Spain, they're all more expensive than Valencia, and we haven't even talked about San Sebastian in this one. What your money gets you, though. In Valencia City, you need to start at 200,000 now for, I would say, anything decent. It's basically anything. And then you bear in mind the variables which cost more. So if you want a terrace, you're going to pay more. If you want a lift, then you're going to pay more because a lot of properties still haven't got a lift. If you want a pool, there are very few that have actually got pool within the city itself. More outside the city if you want to go for a pool with a house, for example. And then if you want a car parking space in the very, very centre of Valencia is going to cost you around 40, 50, 60,000. But outside on the edges, you can get one for about 10 to 20,000. Location, so it depends where it is. There are more popular areas and less popular areas. The size, so I've said below, add in another 20 to 50,000 for each facet. So, if it's got a terrace, add a certain amount, and if it's got a lift, add a certain amount in, etc. But the size is the most important thing because we always do things in per square meter in Valencia rather than anything else. So when we're talking about per square meter, we're talking about the number of meters, number of square feet multiplied by 10, more or less. It's a bit more than that, but let's just use 10 because it's easy. If you've got 1,000 square feet, 100 square meters. Also, if you've got views, and that's very unusual in Valencia because Valencia is very flat, your view is usually the buildings on the other side of the road, so oftentimes you want a view of a very nice building on the other side. If you go outside the city, well, it will depend on the area. Apartments start around 150,000. For example, we've just put one on our website in Liria, which is great. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, big living room, lift, excellent place, 150,000. You move that into Valencia and you're looking at 350, 400,000. Anyway, houses start around 400. Favourite areas for foreign buyers include La Liana, which is 16 kilometres northwest of Valencia, Ribarroja, which is next to La Liana, Petra, which is about 4 kilometres from La Liana, Rocafort, which is a bit nearer to the town, and Godella, which is a bit near to the city as well, La Pobla Vallbona, where I live, Torrent, and Alboraya. Now, these areas are quite popular, and therefore the houses in these areas, again, because they tend to be relatively near to the city itself, are quite expensive. So let's look at the style of properties. So what you can buy, you've got a normal apartment, a penthouse, which is generally the top floor attic. It's called an attico here. And the atticos are on the top floor generally, although some buildings have atticos which are on lower floors. Townhouses, which are massively undervalued. Adosados, which are where it's like semi-detached or row houses. Chalets, which are generally villas, and then of course you have luxury villas as well, things that you find around golf courses and in the most exclusive areas. These are the price movements in the last 5 years. In 2019, the average price was 1,864 euros per square metre. The current price is 2,664 euros per square metre, so that's a rise of just under 50% in 5 years. However, let's go back to 2008 or 2007 even. We're only 12% above the prices in 2008 now. Inflation in that time has risen by 35%, and housing in general has got more expensive the world over. So what we're looking at here is that Valencia is still relatively cheap compared with other cities, with other places, and things haven't got to the record levels that they would be expected to if you take into account as well inflation. And that inflation figure of 35%, it's actually more than that, but day-to-day inflation is about 45%. This includes everything, including electrical goods and things which tend to have come down in price in that time. So we're going to look first at the neighbourhoods in Valencia. So in Valencia, there are lots of different areas, but the most popular tend to be the following. Ensanche is similar to the area in Barcelona called Eixample, and you can find an apartment in Ensanche from 400,000 euros upwards. By the way, on that first photo, which you can see on the left, lovely picture of a staircase. Yes, there was a lift. The lift was behind me. The Cabanyal, for example, 300,000 upwards. Now that house that you can see there, that we sold that last year, that was 460,000. Typical Cabanyal house. Cabanyal, there's lots of fishermen's houses and things like that originally. Used to be a bit away from the city. People in the city used to look down their noses at it. So if you can find a full house like that in the Cabanyal now, it'll cost you probably 500,000. But apartments now are around 300,000 and up. Ruzafa is known as the hip bohemian part of Valencia, and apartments there now from 300,000 up. Just this week I've seen a place at 499,000 for 77 metres, and I said no way are we going to advertise that. We keep a quality control on our properties. That is much too much. In the centre, the old town, that's where you can find most of the tourist areas and things. You're going to pay 400,000 or more now for an apartment. And then if you go down to towards the City of Arts and Sciences, now at the City of Arts and Sciences what you've got is an area which is more modern, and a lot of the properties look over the City of Arts and Sciences, so you pay for the view. Again, you're looking at 400,000 and upwards. Other popular areas in Valencia, which are a bit cheaper, include Patreix, for example. And Patreix is an area to the west of the city centre. I quite like it a lot. It's on the metro line as well. It's not too far from the centre. You can get to the centre in 20 minutes walking, and it'll take about 200,000 to start off with, 250,000 maybe, to find something decent there. And again, bigger things with all the facets that we talked about before, go for more money. Benimaclet is right in the middle of the student area. As you can see from the picture, you're looking at area which again has got a lot of little townhouses and stuff. They cost quite a lot, but looking for apartments there, 250,000 to 300,000 to start, and then 300,000 up the bigger you get. Camins ao Grau is the area that goes down the Avenida del Port towards the sea, towards the Cabanyal, and that area is like a working class area, 6-7 floors in general. Most of the buildings have got lifts, some haven't. You're looking at 200,000 more or less, and you're neither here nor there. When you're there, you're not in the city centre, but you're not at the beach. La Faidia is an area which is to the north of the riverbed, just across from the central Carmen area. It's about 60% cheaper than the Carmen for a 5-minute walk. We always recommend it. Again, it's not an area which is visually stunning. It's an area with 1970s blocks, and you're looking at around 250,000 euros and upwards. Campanar is an area to the northwest of the riverbed as well. Again, 10-15 minute walk into the centre. Very nice area, residential area, and you're looking at 300,000 upwards there. It's actually, Campanar per square metre is the most expensive part of Valencia currently. Outside Valencia, the most popular towns, as we mentioned before, Leliana, well, this is Golden Visa territory. You buy a place for 500,000 and above. Golden Visa might be ending soon. It was supposed to have ended last week. It hasn't, so we'll see. Ribarroja, slightly less popular than Leliana because it's Laliana, the houses tend to be around the town. Ribaroja, they tend to be a bit further out, and therefore you need to use the car a bit more. 450,000 and above, very good houses on good sized plots. Alboraya is down by the beach, but Alboraya's got three parts. There's a bit by the beach, which is known as the Patacona. It's all new apartments and things. That's where the photo was taken. And stuff that's in Alboraya by the beach is going to start at 350,000 really. Then there's the area of Alboraya, which is the old town, which is about 3 kilometres from the beach, 2.5 kilometres from the beach, more or less. And that area you can find old 1960s, 1970s buildings. It's on the metro into Valencia. It's walkable distance into Valencia. It's essentially a part of Valencia as well. You can get apartments from 200,000 there. And then there's another area of Alboraya as well, which is called Porta Playa, which is known badly as the Venice of Valencia. And the Venice of Valencia will cost you about 500,000 for a house to be right by the sea around a marina, or about 300 to 400,000 for an apartment. Rocafort, lots of very exclusive old palaces and things like that, 600,000 and above, right by an international school or two or three. So it's a very popular area because it's only 10 kilometres out from the city itself. Bétera, another popular area. You can get apartments for there for 200,000, houses, depending on where they are, 300,000 and above, going towards Nácara. And if they're around the golf course, there are all these cubic houses, white houses that are around 800,000 and so. Other areas further afield, we're going to look at the coastal ones more than anything. We go down to Cullera, which is about 40 minutes south of Valencia. Very good area. You can get flats from 100,000, 150,000, houses from 150,000, townhouses. You've got a beautiful beach, and it's easy enough to get up to Valencia because you've got the train that goes there as well as being able to drive. Go further down, another 45 minutes to the south, an hour and a quarter, an hour and a half, you get to Denia. Prices for apartments there start around 300,000 now. There are some cheaper ones, but in general around 300,000. Prices for houses 400, 500, 600,000. Javier, very similar to Denia. Apartments and houses, they're getting more and more expensive because they're becoming more and more popular. It's about an hour and a half to the south of Valencia. Then we go to Olocau, which is a bit more inland. A very nice place in the Sierra Calderona Mountains. Apartments from 150,000. I saw one recently for 120. It lasted about 2 days. And you can get houses from about 200,000 as well. Other places that we like, Nácara, which is again in the Sierra Calderona. You can see the hills in the background there. Nácara, houses from 250,000. Apartments from 100,000 sometimes, maybe 120,000. Serra, which is right in the hills in the mountains there. A house may cost 200,000 or something, but you're about 45 minutes away from Valencia there. And you can get apartments from 70,000, 80,000 there. They need a lot of work, but you know. Chelva, you go further inland. It's about 45 minutes inland from Valencia. Beautiful place, absolutely beautiful. Flats from 40,000, houses from 100,000. But, and this is a very big but, got to be careful about the damp issues there because there's a lot of water around Chelva, which doesn't really sound like it is. You see the blue sky and things. You get there, it's always nice and warm and stuff, but there's so much water underground that you do tend to get a bit of a damp problem there. And finally, where I live, La Pobla de Bona, you can get apartments from 150,000, houses from 250,000. Where I live, for example, you probably would have to pay 350,000 for my house, and you would get into Valencia in 15 minutes in the car and you'd be parked in 20 minutes. What are your costs of purchase in Valencia? Well, let's say your property costs 350,000. Your taxes on that are going to be 10%. Your agency fee is going to be 3%. Notary, registry and gestor to get all the paperwork in your name is going to be 1%, and a lawyer will be 1%. If you're taking out a mortgage, they may have an opening cost of a mortgage, roughly 1 to 1.5%. I was in the notary last week and they had a 2% opening commission on it. But in general, all of the other costs of the mortgage except the valuation are the bank's now, because the bank is the ultimate beneficiary of a mortgage, not the person who takes it out. So what's the process of buying? So we're in October now. So let's say you got in touch with me today. We had our first contact and you said, we're coming over in November. Okay, we'd have you visit in November. We'd talk to you beforehand about what you want exactly, and we'd set up your visits for when you come over. And when you come over, let's say we find you your ideal place, okay? Generally, there'd be a 30 to 60 day completion period in order to complete after you put a deposit down. So we'd be talking about December or January 2025 for completion. Yeah. Then we say February 2025 work starts. What does that mean? Well, really, the vast majority of people find a place and they want to do it up. They want new kitchens, they want new bathrooms, etc. So work starts on doing the actual work that is needed. We get contractors to come in, we do some project management for you. Jobs tend to take around 3 months from start to finish. So you'd be looking at moving in June 2025. Now, obviously, if you come over in this November and you find the exact right place for you and you don't need any work doing on it, you could be in it by January, you could be in it by December before Christmas. The process doesn't take very long here, as long as you've got a good lawyer who can do all the due diligence required. On an apartment in the city, it doesn't take very long at all. On houses in the villages and the towns, it can take a bit longer. So the process steps in order to buy a place here. And by the way, that building that we've got there, we sold an apartment recently in that building on the first floor, which is absolutely gorgeous because at the back of the building, it's got a 50-metre terrace. So firstly, you make your contact, you send us your requirements and you plan your trip. When you've got here, we do everything. We get your ducks in a row. So what does that mean? It means helping you to open your bank account, helping you to get your NIE number, the Spanish tax number, which is required to buy, and putting you in touch with a currency firm if you need that, if you're coming from a non-EU currency, if you're coming from a place which hasn't got the euro. Yeah. Then we go and make visits to the properties that might interest you, as long as they exist, of course. Once you find the one that you want, you make an offer, and then we go on to completion, and as I say, 30, 60, maximum 90 days in general to complete. So how does Valencia differ from other areas of Spain? So in Valencia, there's a buyer's agent and there's a seller's agent. In most of Spain, there's a seller's agent and the seller pays the fee. All that means, for example, if there's a 300,000 property, the seller will be paying 5% to the agent. So you won't see a property at 300,000, you'll see a property at 315,000. So a buyer's agent comes along and the buyer and the seller's agent share that money. In Valencia, it's different. Generally, seller's agents get paid between 2 and 3%. Yeah. Buyer's agents also get paid 3%. And that money is split between the two parts. So we act as buyer's agents here in Valencia. You pay us 3%, but it means you do not pay the seller's agent, you do not pay anything else. So the sellers pay 2 here in Valencia. Purchase tax is higher at 10%. It's different in different parts of Spain. It can vary, it can go higher than 10% in various areas for types of properties, it can be as low as 6%. But in Valencia it's 10%. Get used to it, that's what it is. However, ongoing taxes are really low, and I've written an article about this, about how much it costs you. For example, in my house here, my council tax, my annual property tax is €250. It would be €495, I think it is, if I didn't have solar panels, but I put solar panels on so I get 5 years at half price. Things like that are encouraged here. So the market is extremely hot at the moment. What that means is that you're not going to have much choice. Whatever your budget is, it doesn't matter if you've got 300,000, you may only have 3 places that suit the requirements that you've got. And it doesn't make any difference if you go up to 400,000, apart from the fact that you may have 3 more at 400,000. You've already got the 3 at 300,000. So it doesn't make a massive difference whatever your actual budget is. If you're going to, if you want a property in the city, in general, you're going to have an apartment. There are some houses, not many, and as you can imagine, when there are not many and there's a lot of demand, they're very expensive compared with an apartment. If you go to the suburbs, there are plenty of apartments as well, but most people, when they go to the suburbs, want to buy a house. And they buy a house, generally, it's a villa with a garden, pool, etc. I will keep banging the drum for all time for a townhouse. I live in a townhouse myself, really love them. Loads of space, cheaper, and in my particular case, we've got shared facilities. We've got shared swimming pool, shared garden, and that. But in most townhouses, you don't have that. You'll have an outside patio, maybe a barbecue, etc. Terraces, roof terraces, etc. I think the undervalued gems here are really townhouses. However, there's an issue with townhouses that they generally need a lot of work doing to them. And if they've already had the work done to them, well, then they tend to be at that cost, which is just as expensive as everything else. What you get with us from the start is a full service. If you come over for 3 months on the Schengen visa, for example, we'll suggest you get a stepping stone rental, steppingsstonerentals.com, as you can see it on there. And a stepping stone rental, what that means is you've got 3 months to be able to find yourself your either long-term rental or your purchase. And if you don't find anything within that 3 months, hey, you can extend that stepping stones rental or go to another one. Most of our stepping stone rentals are properties that our clients have bought and allow us to rent out for them in order to give them some income when they are not there. You can do the same. You can buy a place, and if you're not going to use it for a few months at a time, we can rent it out for you. When you come to the purchase, we use Valencia Property, of course, and you can buy your property through us, and we'll be charging you 3% for doing that. And when you come to the modernisation, we've got a company called Valencia Remodels. We act as project managers. We work with 4 different Spanish builders who all give us good quotes because they believe they're quoting against each other. The truth is, at the moment, they're not really quoting against each other. They're quoting to get the job because they're all full up with work. So if you want to contact us, if you come into Valencia, then we have a form for you to fill in. It asks you exactly what you want and what you don't want. That's me in the middle there. Welcome to Valencia. Hope you like the presentation. And if you want to get in touch with us, remember you can do that on information@valencia-property.com.